Well, Christianity Today is back, baby, and today they are promoting Barbie and Taylor Swift, saying that they are bringing us all together. Now, the author of this fantastic piece of Pulitzer Prize-winning journalism over at Christianity Today is none other than Beth Felker Jones. And you probably will expect Beth to go on a tirade about how Barbie and Beyonce and Taylor Swift are so great for Christians and how much Christian truth we can glean from these secular artists, because she is also the author of a book about the Twilight series and how there's great gleaming Christian truths hidden underneath the white fangs of Edward and the teenage angst of whatever the girl's name, because nobody even cares. Nonetheless, here is Beth Felker Jones talking about how we need to become a little bit more culturally relevant in the church today, and we'll realize what the church is really missing out on. So this is what she says. The epic trifecta of Greta Gerwig's Barbie, Beyonce's Renaissance Tour, and Taylor Swift's Eras Tour are taking over social media, having grown adult women reliving their youth in a tween girl summer. Please, oh God, can we stop it with the prolonged adolescence? It is time to grow up, women. There is no sadder person on the planet, by the way, than a woman now, not a young girl, a woman who appreciates Taylor Swift, but nonetheless. But the enthusiasm and participation are no less among actual young people. Both my 18-year-old son and my 16-year-old daughter, despite never having played with Barbie as children. Well, my God, you would hope this young boy didn't play with Barbie, but nonetheless. And being on the younger end of the age spectrum for Taylor Swift fans, they're all in. There's a cultural conversation here about the spending power of women and the female dollar, and there's plenty to be said for this. Barbie, Swift, and Beyonce are enormous capital successes. Barbie and Swift's Eras Tour, in particular, open up dialogue about what Michelle Goldberg at the New York Times calls entertainment that channels female angst, awakening a seismic shift for women in helping women reclaim girlhood without rescinding power. For me, though, it's the together more than the dollars and the hope more than the angst that I notice when I try to see this summer through my children's eyes. The pandemic interrupted my kids' lives at a crucial development point. For them, there's almost no before the pandemic in their teen years. There's only the newly opening of the after. And in that wake, what if what my kids want is communal meaning, the kind that is supposed to mark our local churches? As Justine McDaniel pointed out, the Barbie, Taylor, Beyonce summer offers a release of pandemic emotions, exposing a hunger, Goldberg said, that is, quote, a palpable longing for both communal delight and catharsis, end quote. Today, there's church versions of this kind of transportive singing experience shared by those who attend concerts like Swiss, where everyone is on their feet, some with hands in the air, some with tears on their cheeks. Many Christians are cynical about this, but Swift concert goers and Barbie mover goers are not. Well, go ahead and label me skeptical and cynical because, well, here's why. We need critical thinkers in the world today, not consumers of pop culture. See, that's what we've been doing for far too long in the church, and quite frankly, that's why the church is in decline. While you think that this great feminine power moment is fantastic, what you fail to realize is that you might be pink-washing the kind of feminism that we see in some of these cultural institutions, particularly with Barbie and perhaps even in some of these other places. So your pink-washing is for the purposes of trying to be cool, it seems, and to try to have this communal feeling. But the problem is that feminism, specifically second wave and third wave feminism, has been one of the most destructive forces in human history. So if you quasi-Marxists over at Christianity Today are so worried about whitewashing, maybe you should also be worried about pinkwashing, because the feminist movement is responsible for the rise in abortions. Of course, when we have abortion leaders saying that abortion is, quote, an essential value. Is it any wonder that in 1960 we saw around 200 babies aborted annually, and then fast forward 40 years in the future, and in 2000 we see 1.3 million babies aborted? Is it coincidental also that that's when second wave feminism really started taking off, was in the 1960s? See, second wave feminism is also behind the destruction of the nuclear family. shortly after the 1960s, in the 1980s, after the cultural movement started to really gain some steam, well, divorces started to increase rapidly, over 130%. So as you can see, second wave feminism and third wave feminism isn't all about hanging with your gal pals and girl power. It's also about some other really destructive things that we need to be honest about, that you don't seem to want to be honest about. And finally, feminism is also about the destruction of the gender binary. Of course, when feminists come along and say that we need men as much as we need bicycles, is it any wonder that feminists started then communicating that women are becoming the men that we've always known they could be, which is what Simone de Beauvoir said about the second sex. And then we have books like Feminine Mystique and all these other things that wish to try to portray women as just as capable, just as physically strong, and just as everything a man is, a woman is too, without any nuance to understand that obviously there are clear differences between men and women. Now, we can argue about what that is on a different day, but the one thing we can't argue about is just simply this, that feminism has been one of the most destructive forces in human history. If you got 60 million aborted babies, tons of children without fathers in the home, and more. And need I say more than that? So while you're pink washing feminism and having a great time at your Taylor Swift concert, sure, I might be over analyzing here, but let's just face it. My kids are going to be the ones who question why your kids are wearing pink shirts to go to a Barbie movie. And they're going to be the ones that are saying, guys, don't you know that feminism has been responsible for the death of millions of babies and for the destruction of the nuclear family? While your kids say, it's just a movie. So, you have to decide for yourself which kind of kids you want at the end of the day. But let's not pretend for a moment that by just watching Barbie, we are not partaking in the kind of feminism that has been wreaking havoc on our society today, and that we need Christian critical thinkers who understand this. Yes, it may ruin your movie-going experience, and it may ruin your girl power moment, but perhaps if you do know this, then you can actually highlight why we need an alternative to the kind of pink washing that's taking place in this article. Moreover, I think the pink washing is happening because there is such a desire in the current modern church for pop culture relevance. I'm sorry to admit it to you, Beth, but the reason your kids are flocking to those concerts and flocking to the Barbie movie is because they are desperate to feel a part of something. They're craving social acceptance and social relevance. And that really isn't the call of the church. See, our call is not necessarily to be socially relevant. The church has always been on the outskirts, outside the city, if you will. They've always been kind of more revolutionary, against the grain, and swimming upstream. We used to have Christian parents that were interested in trying to raise their kids to think for themselves rather than to purely crave the kind of communal experience that can be found in Barbie. So really, the problem is that we're trying to equate the communal experience that we can have in Barbie and at Taylor Swift concerts with the kind of communal experiences we can have in church. There isn't a carryover, and there shouldn't be. Because the kind of experiences that are found in the culture mirror the culture, which increasingly becomes liberal and progressive. But whenever the church acquiesces to liberal progressive culture, it dies. See, the reason the church is in decline right now and that people are leaving the church in vast numbers, especially in younger generations, isn't because we're not relevant to the culture. It's because we've been bending over backwards in some cases, literally, looking at you, progressive Christians, to try to become culturally relevant, and we have lost the very thing that makes the church powerful and makes the church something that the world needs. Because when progressive leftism chews the world up and spits it out, the world will be flocking to something. The world will want to know, what is the cure for my gender dysphoria? Because butchering my body didn't work. And in that really horrible, catastrophic, depressing situation, the church better not be going along with the culture. They better offer something different. In other words, the only factual basis to the claim that the church is dying because it's not relevant is that the more left it gets, the less relevant it becomes to a people in need. I mean, look at Africa, look at Asia, look at other countries where the church is not pursuing relevance, but pursuing Christ. That's why the church is growing in these areas. The church is alive there. In the West, the church is universally in decline because the more we become like progressive woke cultures, the less we become like the answer. The real way to win the left is to give them something different. It's to be different. To tell the world we're just like you with a little bit of Jesus on top it's not only a lie, it's a recipe for irrelevance. The idea that we can become relevant by being just like the world only takes away the very thing, the very radical thing that makes us appealing to a world in need. It is by virtue of the fact that the church offers something the world cannot that we find our market niche. For far too long, we have tried to show the world that we can be hip beyond our "what would Jesus do" bracelets. So we've shown the world, hey, we can shop at H&M too. And what has it done for us? The church is in decline, and our nation is post-Christian, and depression and despair are at record highs. The radical message of the church is one that is outside of the status quo. It often critiques current social trends rather than leans into them. By virtue of this, it often rubs people the wrong way, and we need to do that in a world that's constantly cutting against people. Maybe you know what I mean. In a generation that craves authenticity, they do not need a bunch of Christians lying to them about Barbie and Taylor Swift. They need a bunch of Christians who are willing to tell the truth, even if they risk social isolation. Because the same people that hate us today, when we stand against the likes of transgenderism, will be the very same people we win to Christ when they come back with their scarred bodies and realize that there was nothing but death in popular social trends and in society. And if you're willing to admit that, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments section below. It's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and to go with God. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.